Oh, okay.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of the Niskuna Task Force on Racial Equity and Justice. I'm filling in for Doc today. He is traveling on some family business. All right, so let's get this started. Roll call. Angela. Ari.
I was going to try to dial in if we make it through later.
Okay. Aya. Cobra. David. Doc. Liz. Liz is
I'm here.
Hayden. Jocelyn. John is here.
Here.
Kay is here. Preeti. Sabrina. Sandra.
Here.
Okay. All right, we don't have a quorum as yet. Let's see if Ari joins, and even if she does, we still have one. We need one more. I don't know if everybody has met Elena. She has joined today.
Hi, good evening.
Elena is our town attorney.
Sorry, I know I've been on the virtual meetings, but I have yet to, this is my first, I think, in person with this task force. So, hello, everybody.
First item. Yes, hi, Sandra.
Before we start, I'd like to propose that we do 13 seconds of silence in honor of the incidents going on, the incident
Absolutely.
that happened in Buffalo.
Sure.
I'll start. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Since we don't have a quorum, we may not be able to vote on the meeting minutes, but let's take a couple of minutes to review the meeting minutes. If you have a copy in front of you.
Yeah, there's hard copies by the door if you, for tea.
I have one comment, John. Page 4, paragraph 2 regarding the TF internship program to residents of Schenectady County. This is more of a recommendation since we don't have, so this is a recommendation to the town board since we don't have the authority to make that change. The decision to open it to Schenectady County is only a recommendation to the board.
The first one is.
The first one is okay.
Second is recommendation.
Yep. Hi.
Hi, I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the difference in the setup of the minutes and appreciate the formatting. That is all.
Thank you, Sabrina. Any questions or comments? I know this is a pretty long one. Any questions? Anybody need another minute? Okay. We will put this item for voting at the next meeting. Next item is membership and expiration of terms. Since this is now May, terms of certain members of the task force expires on July 31st. We have 4 members whose terms are expiring: Ari, David, John, and Sandra. If any of these members wish to be considered for reappointment, please email the leadership committee before end of this month on your decision to be considered for reappointment.
Who is the email going to? Or what's the email for?
So if you wish to be considered for another 3-year term, just email Doc and myself that you wish to be considered or you do not wish to be considered.
Okay, but either way, mail.
Email.
Send an email stating what your intentions or
Correct.
desires are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Either Doc or you.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have also reached out to members of the task force who have been struggling with attendance on their intention to continue with the task force, understanding that this might not be the right time in their life to commit to this work. And we are yet to hear back, but we need those decisions before end of this month so we can let the town know, and they have enough time to look for new members. Sabrina, looks like you have a question, comment.
I do.
Yes.
Wow, we have not heard back from people. I'm flabbergasted. How about we'll use that word? That's a good
Sure.
word. I'm sorry, but the privilege of non-response, I think, is the indicator, and I don't think we need to wait any longer and just assume no response is the response, and we go ahead and fill that spot.
Yep. So,
And I
so,
would like to make a motion for that.
so the only reason we're waiting is because we'd like to send the town one comprehensive list of these many seats have to be filled, these many have to be reconsidered. That's all.
Then I would say, as of today, consider those positions needing to be filled. I would not want to wait till the end of the month. If they have not given it a full month, that is their very strong indicator of lack of interest.
Can I just step in and just explain the process just in case I'm not sure if there's confusion, or I just want to make sure it's clear. So since anybody who is currently on the task force was appointed by the town board, if their term is not expiring, but this task force is looking for reconsideration, it has to be submitted to the town board for the town board to then terminate a term prior to its expiration.
Per the bylaws, though, how many absences, and it's considered they're up for removal.
But the town board has to be the one to do that, so they have to do it by resolution.
Okay, so how do we go about putting that to the town board?
Well, I think if I'm correct, that there is a meeting that's in the process of being scheduled with the town supervisor so that some of these issues can be addressed and can be dealt with at the town board meeting.
Respectfully, what's the timeline on that? Because this has taken 3 months to even get to this spot.
I can't speak for the supervisor as far as, the time at which the meeting will be. I can tell you that there's a meeting that's currently scheduled for next week, and it's not on the agenda for that meeting. So it would be on the town board agenda for June, potentially.
If I may,
Yes.
let me sort of give you how this happened last year. So last year, around the same time, we had 2 members of the task force who, for some reason, were not able to commit to the requirements of the task force. When we found out about that, we gave the town the names of these people to be reconsidered and filled in. And I think the timing worked in such a way that the new appointments and the appointments of these people sort of coincided around the same time. So,
Right, so we are asking to replace half of this task force, basically. We've been waiting for Jamie's replacement since November.
mhm.
That's all I'm saying. I know I'm maxed out and I'm ready to say check, done, finished, because this is ridiculous. There is nobody here to offer support or do the work. So the major question is, why is it taking so long? I mean, we have people that have not shown up for a year. The clarity of that message of not attending a meeting for a year, one meeting in February. What other indicators do we need? And what other bureaucracy, what other hoops do we need to jump through so that we can be an effective, cohesive team? That's my major question. My frustration level is at its absolute maximum. And just to see yet another month of delays. No, thank you. I'm tapped. I'm ready to say add my name to the list because wow.
Can I ask a couple questions just generally for this discussion? I understand that there are people who have not been attending meetings. Is the issue that there needs to be more people appointed to spread work around? Is the issue that work can't be done because this board can't meet a quorum for votes? Combination of the two and
All of the-
other. I just want to hear what the issues are, because I know if the quorum was the issue, one of the ideas is that the town board could in theory reduce the number of people on the task force from 15 to a lower number. Because 15 is a pretty high number to have. I don't think we have any other task force or committees in the town with that high of a number. But if there's work that needs to be done and we need to have 15 people, I'm not
There are
sitting there
4
suggesting.
work groups. And on those 4 sub work groups, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 people who do a majority of the work.
So But the issue is that there needs to be, in addition to potential removals for those who are not participating, there also needs to be people who are eager to join the task force and do the work. And I don't know if we've received any
Have we put out a-
prospects.
Have we put out a request?
I mean, I'm not involved in that process, so I can't say that that has or has not been done. I'm just sitting here tonight hearing this discussion, trying to participate and, help. So I don't know the answer to that. Sometimes people know other, just in speaking to word of mouth, sometimes if there's not a formal post. So a lot of times that's how we get people on the task force. But I'm just, interested to hear everybody's position so that I can help facilitate this moving forward.
We have a hand from Liz. Liz, go ahead.
Hi, Alina. Nice to see you.
You too.
Okay. Okay. People, Alina, this is a kind of a rhythm of the mood. People are missing all these meetings. We don't know why, but there was 15 people in this task force from the beginning of last year, but this year is something different. A lot of them are absent, but we don't know why. But we may have to reach out to them before we take any actions. I know the town board will decide all those things, but some people are frustrated. Especially the new people are frustrated because the majority of the work, they are the ones who are handling it. But we are all there as a work group to work together, but I don't know, but we have to be a little more patient, and people are people, so I think we should consider to reach out to them and see what's the, what is the cause. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Sandra.
I believe that the task force doesn't need to be reduced. I think the idea of having the size that it did was to provide as much diversity as possible. So in that state, I don't think we should reduce it. I do think that it does speak for itself that if for whatever reason people have not been able to participate, not making anybody wrong, right, or whatever, if they have not been able to participate, it just drags it out and it makes it frustrating for the people who are doing it. And these people are working hard. I know that. So I think the best for us is to get to the part where we can move on. So if you've reached out, you haven't heard anything, to me, the next step would be to take it to the channels that if they even, I don't even know if you have, if the town has to reach out and ask the people before we can make a choice, or they can make a choice about who's coming in. And I really don't know if we've even considered putting the announcement out, irregardless of them. There was 4 people who may not be here anyway. So we need to cast a net to get what we get. And then you have the opportunity to make choices. But right now, I don't see where we have the choice.
No, I agree. So the way the process works is for those whose terms are expiring, we give, based on their wish or desire to be reappointed, we give that list to the town in addition and add any other names who do not want to be considered. And then the town releases the appointment application somewhere around May or it's June or July, and by July the new appointments are made because we work on the July to July cycle for any new appointments. For the ones that have been suffering from lack of attendance, per the bylaws, it is within our rights to recommend their removal, which is really the next step here, is the recommendation of removal. That is within the task force bylaws.
So I hear this, and I'm one of the people who doesn't get too frustrated about this numbers because I know it happens in the community. It's hard to fill positions. It's a large group. I have to tell you, though, I was very impressed when there were 15 people appointed, 3/4 had to be people of color. I thought that was, and actually the first team, I was very impressed with everybody. But it is hard to keep up the numbers. If people did apply, though, last year, when the announcement went out saying that, are you interested in being in the task force? People did apply, but the emails got, there was some miscommunication. And so the town said nobody applied, and people said, no, we did. So there were at least 5 or 6 people's emails were misplaced. And so there was actually a selection process. People were excluded because there were so many people who applied. However, it may be an issue down the road that it may be harder. You know, this was a new task force, and people are always so enthusiastic about starting something new, and then like it becomes same old, same old. And every time there's an incident, like we had the Buffalo incident, people say, we got to do something. And maybe again, people will say, oh, we need to join this. But then again, as time goes on, it gets kind of, you know, you got to do something. People have the attention for very short periods of time. So having said that, I hear what Sandra said, the size shouldn't be decreased. I'm not one way or the other on that. It's if we can fill them, great. But if we are forced because we, for whatever reason, we don't get. The one thing I would though encourage, and which was very helpful for me on the task force, was encourage our work groups to include people from the community. You know, I started last year with the work group, and we said we'll work for 1 year. People couldn't stay for 1 year. They really were very focused. They wanted to do something. And if we were not there, I mean, they worked very hard. I learned a lot from being part of the work group. But it was hard for people to stay for long periods of time. So all I'm saying is if we can keep the 15, great. 3/4 of color, I said, was impressive. And if we decrease, I would like to see, even if we don't decrease, just whatever we do, involve the community and, you know, get really specific projects. So thank you.
Thanks, Preeti.
I just wanted to add, I think just to add on to Sabrina, that when you're in the work groups and you have to produce the work and you don't have a lot of active participation, at the end of the day, of course, you guys realize the work still has to be produced. Sabrina and I were like the newer people that came on, part of the newer group. And I think we enthusiastically jumped right in and to get the work done. But say, for example, if something's due, if I have time limitations, I can say to Sabrina, can you pick this up? And we cover each other and we get it done. But like if Sabrina's not going to be here and I don't have my buddy to help cover me, that's a problem. And so at the same time, yes, eventually new people would be canvassed. But when they come in, there's like, it needs to be like a bit of a transition. Like if we throw the new people in right away, I think we got to look at burnout. Give them time to transition. Let's get them assigned to a work group. But if you throw them in the way that a lot of us were thrown in, we've stuck in it out because the cause is worthy. I'm a person of color. I mean, it's personal to me to do this, but I don't know, like, just throwing people in. We're looking for relief, the people who are working in the work groups now, but it's not really fair for the new people coming on to be just like thrown in and transitioned in and be like, here, here's work, here's this due, go to this. Like, that's a lot. I don't know what the solutions are to this. I mean, obviously there's things in works like onboarding and other things, but how do we keep people? How do we keep them invested? Like, how do we engage them? Like, besides the work group meetings, are we having any interactions with each other? Like, how does this flow? How does it work to keep it going, like out, because the work really takes place in the work groups. There's great ideas in these meetings, but after the ideas are presented, who is doing the work of your idea to get it done? Like, they're being thrown out, but who's actually going to do this work? I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cobra. Any other comments? Elena, did we answer your questions? Okay, perfect. Any other comments, questions before we move on? This will be a topic of discussions because once we have that list of people who will or will not move forward, then comes the part about creating the application announcement, which I remember last year there were a few people who had input into how we crafted what the application announcement looked like. And this is really the time to put some honest expectations in there. In the same vein, we also have leadership positions expiring at the end of July. So July 31st, all the leadership positions expire. If you are interested in a leadership position, you can nominate yourself or you can nominate somebody else. Those nominations are also due to the leadership committee. I know this is a little more involved, so probably before the next meeting, because this is more internal to the task force.
I have questions. Sorry.
Sure.
So leadership positions, July 31st, will we know by our next meeting who is staying, who is going? And then will we have time to know who's coming in so we have an understanding of the cohort we're working from?
So, since this is only our second year of leadership position, I'm only speaking from experience. The new cohort got appointed in the last week of July. So the town board meeting in July appointed the new members. The elections were in the August.
Right.
August
Our first meeting.
our fir-
So
yes,
we
August.
blindly voted, oh, sure, that's who.
Correct. So it's safe to assume that the new folks coming in don't apply for leadership positions. It's the ones who've been working. But
Is there a way to alter that timeline so it's a little more effective for efficacy reasons? Because again, if a new cohort is coming in and we're trying to figure out leadership positions, it doesn't give any time to anybody to get to know one another in that sense. And then you're only really getting the vote of how many people from the previous cohort. So that doesn't feel like the most effective use of our time and the most effective use of our resources in who could be in those leadership positions, if you understand.
and
what
not
I'm saying
fair
here.
to the new people either,
Yeah,
right? As
Yeah.
they don't know. Yeah, we can take a look at the bylaws and also have that as a topic of discussion with the leadership committee.
thank you.
We'll get back to you on that in the next meeting. Oh, sorry, Liz, go ahead. Liz, did you have a question?
No, the time frame, is supporting Sabrina because we don't actually get to know each other because number one, we are still in a Zoom meeting. We are not in person. So if we can arrange something in person, so we will be able to meet each other and get to know each other. That will help us too. So all our frustrations will go away in that way too. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. So we will definitely take that into consideration. If in the meantime anybody is interested in leadership positions, please let us know. Any questions? Any comments on that topic? Okay, moving on. Year-end report. This is David's topic, but he's not here. However, if you're still waiting to send your reports to David, please do so. He has a pretty big task in front of him to format everything, make it streamlined, flow nicely. So please help David. Working group updates. Public safety.
Okay, for the public safety, we continue to work with the Police Reform Implementation Task Force. They are tasked with actually putting the recommendations in place. They are making some progress. There are some things in place now that will be highlighted in the tracking, the more comprehensive tracking report. Let's see. There are some things being put in place. I don't want to highlight it now. It's in the report. I'm sure that, John, will the report be gone over like once it's produced or?
Yeah, actually, I sent the working draft report out to everyone on the task force for your review and information just a few days ago. So it's still an internal working document at this point, but we're sharing that with y'all so you can comment back.
And so Sabrina, John, and I, we continue to work with the implementation task force to assist in any way we can, any input they need in order to help them meet the recommendations. Of course, there are some recommendations that are reliant on budget issues and other variables, but they are working through that. Thank you.
Any questions for the public safety group? Yes, Preeti.
So I did read the report, and I like the fact that you had. Oops, I should do this. I speak softly, and then I have the mask. So I did like the fact that you all had subcategories, and so that was helpful because it's one big piece to swallow, right? But the downside of that is then it raises a lot of questions because now you can look at the small pieces. So, for example, I think it was the community engagement. And I think it was they were going to meet with Niski residents and town boards. And this was the issue I had right from the start for the report that came out from the community and from the consultants. Is 86% of the interactions were out of county. And yet it seems the community engagement was totally focused on Niskayuna. And I said, how is it going to make any difference with what you're doing? Because really you should be working as a region and figure out how to address these issues. So my question to you is, if we had questions, because you have now put it in small bits and we can think a lot more in small pieces, should we send you the questions that come up as you look at it? Because I don't think you'll be able to answer it. These are questions that will take some thought.
Okay, that's great, Priti. Thank you, and thank you for looking at the report. The purpose of the report is to carefully track the Niskayuna Police Department's progress in implementation of 168 recommendations. Anything that you have, like the comment you just made, is a comment on one of those recommendations. So we'll definitely take that. But more importantly, there is the task force. I'm going to blank on their name. The Police Reform Implementation Task Force, a different group of people. So what you want to do is give it to us, but more importantly, give it to them, because they're the ones that are going through each one of those recommendations to see how to implement them. And I think what you're saying would be perhaps a better way to implement one of those recommendations, or maybe even adjust or modify those recommendations.
So then my question is it better for me to give it to them because I'm as an individual, or give it from the task force to them, because then you're speaking as a group, which actually holds more weight than me as an individual?
So I would say both. You
Yeah.
send it to as an individual,
So
but
I'll
send
send
it to me, and our
okay.
working group will compile
And
it
if
as
I
well.
send it to them, who would I send it to?
They have an email. I'll follow up. I don't know
Okay.
their email off the top of my head, but
All
they
right.
do have one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Next up is community service. Liz, are you able to provide an update for community service work group?
Can you hear? I think David is still waiting to hear from the town. And obviously, I didn't get any single response from them. This is the second year, but David is after them. But hopefully, he gets something sooner. But we would like to do something constructive, but I don't know who's going to help us. The town has to help us to do something. Maybe Alina can give us some support to do something.
Can somebody just give me a quick background?
So I think there were
Thank you.
a set of questions that came out of one of the working groups that was provided to your predecessor, and I think I think David is primarily still working on trying to find out the answers.
Okay, I know that I met with David before the last task force meeting, and I think he may have spoken to some of that at the last meeting. He sat down with myself and Lori Peretti, who is our director of community programs, and he had reached out to me about some information that Attorney Briggs had given him. And I had invited him in to sit down and meet with myself and Lori to try to get answers to the questions that he had. So I think that he was able to. I just don't know if that's been communicated to the group yet or if there's still some outstanding items, but I can certainly follow up with David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Lena. Anything on data and best practices? No? Okay. Since the last meeting, we have the community engagement work group. Preeti or Liz, is that something that has formalized yet? Have you guys met at all on that topic?
Yeah, Doc, Liz, and I met. I think Cobra and Sabrina were busy. So Liz brought up the idea of doing some kind of a big book discussion. The issue was like spring, summer, and we were saying this is not a good time to do anything that's to the community, to consider doing it in fall, if anything. And so that's really where we left it. And I don't think we totally decided on a book. I know one of the books suggested was, what is it? Fragility, anti-fragility?
White
White
fragility. White
Yeah.
fragility.
Yeah, I think we should really though discuss what book, because I think it depends on who's discussing and what book. I think these are, issues that you kind of need some consensus. But like I said, we just talked.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on any work groups before we move on?
Oh, wait. Oh,
Go ahead, Liz.
okay. Oops. Also, I suggested to bring some speakers from our neighborhood, from our community, talking about diversity. So Doc said that he will look into it. So I have a couple of speakers I know of them. Maybe I can reach out to them. But I need the permission from the town. Can we do that?
Liz, can you send us a formal request that we can then send to the town? Formal
Okay,
proposal on the speaker
I will.
time.
I will reach out to Doc and we will write up something. How is that?
Okay,
Yeah, I think
Okay.
she's referring to the community engagement work group and then
Right.
having that work group bring that proposal
okay,
for that level of community engagement.
okay.
Yes.
Just a quick, a little formal proposal that we can then just forward to the town to make
Okay.
sure everything's okay.
Groovy.
All right,
There
thanks,
you go.
Preeti.
And
Thank
the
you.
intern became a work group, the intern work group that Cobra and I were voluntold for. Cobra has offered the update last month. The update does not change, and I am presenting it because she got tagged with public safety. So wonder twin powers. There is no change to that. We have put in updates to Niskayuna, to the town website updates, and open solicitations for internship applications. None have arrived. That is the update.
Okay. I do have an update on the student internship question from last meeting regarding possibility of a paid internship. And we actually heard from Elena's office that at least for this year, there is no money in the budget for a paid internship, right?
Not this year. If that's something that is going to be sought for next year, then I don't know when the budget process starts, maybe around August, at the end of August, going through auditing right now. So probably towards the end of summer, that request should be in writing to the supervisor's office, and then that can be part of the discussions for next year.
Yes, Sandra.
Oh, yeah. That's a good suggestion. So it will help us to get some good candidates, if we pay something.
And going along with that, did we get any clarification or information about the possibility, or is that the thing where the town would support summer employment, but we were going to use an intern as one of those positions. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of NICAP, was there any kind of clarification on whether we could solicit them or not?
For a grant?
I'm sorry,
For a grant, is that what you're asking?
for a grant or for some kind of funding so that it would cover an intern?
So it's possible. We do resolutions to submit grants to NCAP. So if that's something that this task force is interested in, I would suggest adding that to the agenda for when you meet with the supervisor for
Okay.
discussion on that.
Any other comments, questions on the internship piece? Okay. Well, we covered one of the additional topics. The other topic,
One second.
sorry,
Okay.
Liz.
Okay, this internships, this is only for the high school students, like at 12th, 11th and 12th graders and college bound, first year or second year.
So the requirement is for high school students that they be juniors and seniors, and for college level, they need to be full-time status and have good academic standing for both high school and college.
Okay, Alina, is there any way you can suggest to the town board so we can extend that applicant pool to the city of Schenectady or any other schools, districts, so we can get some people?
So I know that I think had come up at a prior meeting. I don't think that that's going to be possible because this task force is limited to residents of Niskayuna. So therefore, an intern would also be limited to a resident of Niskayuna. However, I was going to double check that with our comptroller's office and HR department. It's just that right now they're really busy with auditing. So I haven't gotten a formal answer, but that's just what I believe based on what I know at this point in time.
Can I just add one more thing? So
Thank you.
here's the challenging thing that's happening is we're like reaching out to the Jewish Community Center churches here in Niskayuna. But what happens is we're hoping that we will get a resident. Like we reach out to Union College, hoping that we'll get a Niskay resident. Kind of, Union isn't within, but we still reach out to them, hoping that maybe somebody would meet the requirements and get them. So that's what we're doing. We're reaching out other than just to the high school. But so far, we have not received any interested applicants.
Thanks, Cobra. Again, something we discussed at the last meeting that perhaps the timing of as it gets closer to the summer, we might see some more interest. So fingers crossed. All right. Regarding the virtual retreat, I know so Doc told us that when he sent out the email regarding whoever wants to attend the next new date or next plan needs to let him know that they are absolutely interested in attending. And he did not get a lot of responses on that email as well. So one of the things we discussed at our last leadership meeting is to move the retreat as an orientation activity with the new cohort. This is, again, a time for us to know each other, the time for the new cohort to sort of understand and get mixed into the dynamic of the work group, and also a good place to start a new term for the task force. So that is our hope as an orientation activity with the new cohort.
I'm annoying myself. Okay, fabulous. Love the idea. Spot on concept. But that can't happen till potentially August or September. What happens to all of our lovely ineffectiveness until then? That's how many months of just spinning our wheels. And thanks, but this girl has got a full plate and wants to get the done. I'm trying not to swear because I got to remember this is recorded. Okay.
So I'll be completely honest. Look around the room. This on most days, this is the best we get. Right? So I think the people in this room and Doc and David, we're all on the same page as far as what is working for us in terms of effectiveness and camaraderie. And this is all I can say is this is the best we can get this term. That's plainly putting it. Do we have a better chance with the new cohort on starting on the right foot? I'd focus my energies there and my hopes on that place.
So we can really set that up for August then. So like first meeting they come to, it's not like my experience of sitting there going, oh, what, huh?
Yes.
So we'll really nail that down in between now and then. That's our
Right.
short-term goal.
Yes.
Nail
So
it
we
and-
will take into account the moving out the leadership elections, so we can based on what the bylaws say,
Or-
so we can build in the
Or
time
can we move it
to.
up instead of move it out? Although no,
No, we wouldn't get
We
a
don't
new
have
task
enough
force
people.
until the first week
Like-
of August.
Yeah.
So we can, again, this is a fluid topic to move the elections at a time where the new cohort has had a time to orient, sort of onboard kind of what Preeti's working on, and have a first meeting before we move to
that makes sense.
voting.
That
So we'll take that into consideration. That seems like a fairly big topic of discussion as far as timeline is concerned. So we'll put that on our agenda with the leadership team.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of discussion about participation and why people are dropping out. Some of us know why people step back. So I think it's important to acknowledge it very honestly. You know, like I said, I was been very impressed with this makeup of the task force when the first year, and I was impressed that the backgrounds and the bios were really impressive. And I said, it's hard. Niskayuna, we have fewer. It's a minority, right? People of color are a minority, and yet they were on the task force. For me, that was really impressive. It made a strong statement. However, I think our task force is not very friendly, in all honesty. Now, I stand here, I'm very confident. You can say something to me, and I'll just drop in a molder. I'm experienced, so I don't take things personally. But some people do. And I don't, all of us come in from different backgrounds. So we're not trained, group dynamics is not natural. You're not born with it. It's something you learn. So I'm thinking, we need to know what it is that got step people back. I know a few reasons why people step back. And so if we can understand what's making people withdraw, I think that would be helpful so it's not repeated in the new year.
Sort of like an exit interview. Okay. Any questions, comments about the retreat, orientation? Yeah, just pull the chair there.
I'm just gonna stand here for a hot minute. Exit interview, love it, fantastic idea. But I also wonder if it needs to be from somebody not on the task force, so they can actually express their reasons why they have decided to step back. I don't know if there's somebody from the town that could participate in that, so that we can really get a clear sense of effective, ineffective, and how we can go forward building a cohort that really can get in there and get some work done. And because Pretty, you're so spot on with that we all have our reasons. We think we know why, but my lens is vastly different than other people's lenses. So trying to honor that space. I think it would be great if we could get somebody to really ask the hard questions and let people answer them so they're not, swearing on camera.
I think that's a great idea, and that is something we can add to our agenda to when we talk to the supervisor, because again, town board appointments, we gotta defer to them. Okay. Done. Are you sure? Can I move on? Really quickly connected to that, on the topic of orientation, I kind of want to give Preeti a couple of minutes because I know you guys met, some of you met as a group to discuss potential onboarding activities. The only reason it's not on the agenda today is because it's a topic of discussion with the town supervisor to understand what will onboarding look like, and whether it is a 100% task force activity, or whether the town board will do something in the form of onboarding, and whether we can provide some assistance. So just trying to understand what that looks like, since this is the first time we're proposing something like this. So that's definitely on the agenda for our meeting with the supervisor. Preeti, do you want to take a couple of minutes?
We met, it was John, Sabrina, Cobra, Liz. Whoops. We met. And the reason actually I kind of brought that up is because we had talked, Dana, our summer intern, we had talked about it. She had come up with an outline, but we didn't do anything with an outline. So I had an outline. We had the materials. I also knew I'm going to be remote for the next few months. And so I said, well, I'm here and things are still fresh in my mind. I'll get something down. So we did put some things together. It's actually on the shared drive under onboarding materials. It can be modified, whatever, but at least it's all the stuff that we discussed and we suggested. It's there. Dana had it was nice to have an outside perspective on what was needed, because you're so much inside, you really don't know what people want. So I thought her outline was very helpful. And so we talked about, so what we have developed is like a draft PowerPoint. We talked about doing some kind of a video, a 3 or 4 minute video based on that. It could, and we came up with some kind of a resource initial, but we also, I suggested, let's share this with the other task force members and see if people have other recommendations. So it's all on the shared drive.
Great, thank you. That's all we had on the agenda. Any other items? Any other questions? Sabrina, you can, it's open floor.
Hi, Kate.
Yes, Liz.
Okay, can we have a picnic?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Can we have a picnic like last year so we can meet everyone? Eat
Yes.
something together?
Yes, we can definitely talk about that.
Thank you.
I had one more thing. Like, does the new orientation process include like some type of training regarding working in groups? Like, I think Priti mentioned that, just like conflict resolution and the dynamics of working in a larger group setting, like it'll be inclusive to that.
So again, this is the orientation and retreat is Doc's thing. I know it's called Workshop on Organizational Effectiveness, so I'm guessing there are some aspects of that, but a big portion of that is really getting to know each other and our understanding of racial equity and justice and the topics that we are tasked to work on.
And maybe it's also trustworthy, can we
Right.
trust each other, so
Building trust,
confidentiality
cooperation.
and all those things will be
Yes.
addressed.
I also think that goes to part of the book club idea and the other types of community engagement where we really do make ourselves vulnerable to that type of hard work and really start to dismantle some white supremacy, divorce ourselves from it if we can. And I think maybe somewhere on our agenda have like, I know we already have community engagement work group, but maybe a standing item on resources on something that, oh, has anybody read this book? Has anybody done this? So that we can on our own also do some of that work if possible.
Yep, good idea.
Give me 1 second, please. I am no, sorry, I'm taking so much time. Sabrina, this is a small knit community, Niskuna. So I don't know how much we can educate or we can expect from these people, but they are a click community. Sorry to say in public, but we can pray for the betterment of this community and we can die for this community. I don't know who's going to be willing to open their mind and address or admire or accept or respect any other colored people. I'm not sure about it, but as a task force member, I am hoping to make a little change in their mind or in this community. But in order to do that, we have to have patience. We cannot jump into conclusion. We have to train them, teach them, educate them. Maybe we can develop an educational seminar or something with the doc. Doc is a good educator, so we can do that. So bringing up all these ideas, we are only 15 people and we have only X amount of time to teach everything and bring some, fruit. It takes time. So just be patient and we hope something will happen. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Any final comments, question, any topics we did not cover? Anything coming up in the next 3 weeks before the next meeting? Okay, just a final reminder, those whose terms are coming up for expiration, if you have a desire to continue on the task force and be considered for reappointment, please email Doc and myself. Thank you. Can I get a motion for adjourning the meeting? All right, I see Liz has seconded the motion. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.